Hello there. I thought it might be a good time to try to give an update as to what I've been doing, which isn't only looking at impoverished women that need breast surgery. That's fine, and I'm sure that you feel the same way as I do about that sort of thing. But this is a channel mostly concerned with C and C++, and of course Windows comes up because that's the operating system I have, and various projects that I've had going on for the last little while. I actually have something. I should, just as a part of the introduction, I suppose, just run this little start. Man, I don't like that name. I'm going to change it to something else. But this thing is just mimics that UserAssist program that somebody wrote. I'll run it, and it's here is a breakdown of those things I was showing you before. I don't know what all of these things are for actually. I can't sort this thing. This is my new object that I've made called list control. Based on the similar. It's based on the MFC C list control class. Has a similar interface. I don't know all the things it can do. The icons here on the side, some of them are taken from if it found the file, let's say, and some of them are ones that I have prepared. Like this red one here is just part of the executable image. That indicates that these files don't exist. There's a red thing. They don't exist. And I have a couple others. Like here, I'm not yet parsing the remember I showed you that there's a way I can find out what DLL this corresponds, or exe or whatever, what binary this corresponds to, if at all. And so I should be able to produce an icon for that. This here, that's my own program, not that cute. So all these control panel type things just have a control panel icon, and that one is not part of this program. That I took from the control panel application called control.exe. This here is a standard icon. So there are actually, in terms of the icons in here, there are different. There's a variety of different types of icons. Some are taken from a program. Some are standard Windows icons that appear on dialogues, like like IDI exclamation and all that. Those icons. And some are taken from the resource for the program that's running this dialogue. This is a dialogue, by the way. It's not a frame window or anything like that. And you'll notice that I have an icon here. I didn't realize that you could do that until I just tried it. I thought you couldn't change the icon of a dialog, but apparently you can. It's your own address space, so I suppose every dialog, I changed it in the window class structure, so any further dialogues, I suppose, get the same icon. I don't know. I could maybe make a message box come up on an event of some sort. I could put a button on my dialog. Well, this is really just a diversion though. Well, let me get to... Nah, I don't want to see. If I put a button. Something. Anything. A checkbox. Something I can squeeze in. No, that's going to produce an event if I click it. If I register it too. Oh, no, it'll give a WM command, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to delete it actually, but I just want to make sure that it's visible. So I'll put it as close to here. I don't want to adjust anything else. I'm going to delete it immediately. And in here, it's called. I'll compile this first to find out what goes into refresh.page. Let's call this. I think that'll be true. Now, does message box have a icon on it? I just want to see. I think that would be true. WM command for any kind of control. W parameter, well, it should be low word. I think. Great. So there are a bunch of things that had to come together all at once in order for this program to do its thing. And those are all the little things that I've been working on, seemingly at random, but not completely at random, because I needed all of them to do this. Wallpaper, right here. Oh yes, it's there. This is my new favorite wallpaper. Now what? Isn't that right? Underscore? Maybe? And completely by accident I came up with that image. I mean, with what one might consider to have been done on purpose. And that is, you see how her hair is kind of in a circular pattern, and it matches this window thing. I didn't intend to do that. It was an accident. I could pretend I did. But I'm not that good when it comes to that sort of thing. I hope this works. See, look, it's got that icon. All these things now. Any dialogue box, not in the world, just in this process. Other things will have their normal icon. I haven't changed it globally. Oh, this isn't really a dialog. Or this is a message box. Now this one doesn't have any icon at all. Doesn't prove anything. What would have? I want something that's just an MBOK dialog. What has that? Why does this have an icon at all? Oh, because I've set. I see. Normally they don't even have icons. See, if I didn't do this, I see. Okay. Dialog boxes don't have icons, right? However, you could, if you wanted to, you could add an icon to a dialog by just setting the classes in the window class structure where the H icon is stored. Put an icon there, and I put this icon from my program. If I didn't do that, I won't get any icon at all. There's no default icon. I hope. Oh, maybe there is, because I've got system menu set. Oh, we'll see. I think there could be, in the case where you have system menu set, but it depends on if you're using the styles or not. See, there is an icon there. So I wonder why that. This does. Oh, I see. Huh. Now this one, which previously didn't have an icon, this has a. See, this has a style. This has a style setting, which says to show a system menu. And in order to indicate there's a system menu, they put an icon here. In the other case, I added an icon to the dialog, that number something, 3000 something, 32, whatever it is. I gave them all icons, even if they don't have a system menu. Of course, that wasn't my intention, but it doesn't matter because it's only in your own process space. It's consistent enough if you think about it. All the dialogues in your application have your icon. Even system dialogue should have it. So you would be able to tell immediately if a dialog pops up and it doesn't have this icon, then it's coming from outside. Anyway, so I made a list of things here to mention. Let me check my list. Okay, now the first thing I want to look at or mention again is the stuff to do with these known folders. There's something called a ref known folder ID defined in the world, but not by me, and that just happens to be a GUID, a reference to a GUID, and known folder ID being just a GUID. And then there's a string identifier that goes along with these known folders. These string identifiers all have the same form. Now here I've invented a struct that has the two of them together, and I'll show you. I'll get one and I'll print out the two members. Actually, it's really use this unit test. Oh yeah, something I found in the registry. Whenever I'm looking at the registry, I find these things, and I have to check them out. Just beside the where we are, user assist is something of interest. That should be of interest. Here's the user assist thing, right? With the two count things that we're looking at. Right down underneath here is something called wallpapers. Okay. And then there's something called images and known folders. I don't know about this. But forgetting about that, it's obvious that this here is in that base 64, text to binary format, which I've just written a whole bunch of functions for. This one, when you press enter, you can't see it. This comes up blank. This one doesn't. And the reason this is coming up blank, I assume, is because it's too long. This is quite big. If you copy it, okay, I've just copied that. Oops, no, I didn't. To copy it, whoops, just Control C should be enough. Because normally the thing starts out selected. So, okay, that's the string. I think it just doesn't fit in the dialog. Because when I retrieved it myself, and I got the same string. Unfortunately, it doesn't turn into a picture it doesn't turn into a picture that I recognize when you unscramble it. Not only that, it's not the number of characters here is not a multiple of 4. It's multiple of 2. I mean, you have to delete 2 characters before it becomes multiple of 4. And I'm not sure if, maybe you have to take away these 2 or a certain special 2 or scan to it so you find a sequence of some sort. I don't know, but I didn't get a picture out of it, but I'm sure that I just saw an icon. Never mind. I'm sure that that probably turns into the standard Windows wallpaper or something. Alright, but anyway, I was talking about known folders. So there's that struct here. Now, how am I going to get one of those? Well, the way I can get it is through these identifier numbers that I invented called known folder index. Okay, 0 is unknown, 1 is account pictures, and so on. So let's try this. To get one, I would say get known folder ID. I should say from ID. I'm going to rename that. Just that. I want to call it. Now what that returns to me is a reference to a known folder. That should be in a highlighted thing. I'll change that. Okay, now I can print. If I want, I can print out one of those things. Oops. I'm not including known folder. Stir ID. One is a GUID type thing, and one should be a more human readable string, not a path or anything. Just the idea was, I think, they wanted to use a GUID as like a literal number, right? And the known folders.h that I downloaded and now completely changed, so I've lost it. It could be in the history. It had, true enough. I'll change that to, hang on a sec. Oh, I guess I thought I had made these public, but they're not. These are both static. There's a name. These strings, okay, are just GUIDs, numeric strings. And what used to be in the header file was this being like a variable name, and this being the data in the variable. So you can't actually get these. It's not that. It's known folder ID underscore. Okay, in the SDK header, and those are just variable names, and I don't expose these. You don't need them. So all this thing gives you is a string, you saw, and a reference to a folder ID, and folder ID is a GUID. So this is a binary structure, and this is a string that represents that same structure. So we can print the string out. But we can't print the structure out this way, so this gives you a conversion. That's all. Now I said that thing contains a reference, which might make you a little bit suspicious. How is it possible that this thing can contain as one of its data members a reference? Like how are you supposed to copy one or send one to another function? How do you modify one? And the answer is you're not allowed, and you're not allowed in two ways. One, because this is declared constant, not the data pointed to it, although that's constant by virtue. As far as the declaration goes, it's this string, the pointer, and its contents are constant. This is a reference, so by definition, if you can't modify its value. And it's also true that I could put another const. This could be a constant ref. I mean, a reference to a constant struct, GUID struct. It already is. It worked last time. It's const GUID ref. See? So the GUID refers to is also const. Now I just ran a program there called utcommon. I just want to show you something. This is the dump of everything to do with this program. In summary, as far as areas, segments, or whatever in this program, there's the usual one: data, iData, RData, RSource, and text. And I've added a new one called FIDs. I shouldn't really call it KFIDs, and I think I will. Known folder IDs is given its own data not segment, but its own, they call those the parts of a binary image. Anyway, it's a segment, a constant segment. But in this case, it's FIDs. And you'll see it's quite a big file, actually. Jeez, it's huge. The reason this is so slow is because the way I do this is I find all locations, and this file is well, 49,000 lines, and it's quite big. It's not a file, actually, it's just a piece of memory. And this is going, and that's going. Hang on a sec. Well, that's another thing I need percentage indicator for. Is that my search? Well, actually, it would have been a long time anyway. As it turns out, this file is save it here. UCCommon 4 megs big. But anyway, this segment's not small, not big. It's a read-only data, initialized data, and it just corresponds with these declarations here. So these are written by the operating system into the program's memory arena, and it's just an array of these structures. A folder ID thing, which is a GUID, and its string equivalent. Both of these are pointers. Sorry, this is not a pointer. This is an actual structure. No, it's not. Sorry. It's a pointer, in fact. Because these structures here are defined as static objects in this file. And so if we read through that data area, the first bytes should be the 000C0046, right? Now that happens to be the UUID, the universally unique ID for IUnknown, if you don't recall. So I thought that would be an appropriate one. It certainly means unknown. The next thing in this file should be the next thing in this list. Oh no, it won't. Not necessarily, anyway. The next thing will be a pointer to a string. Right? Because I define in this one line, I define the structure and the string, but not the actual string itself, just a pointer to it. So this should be a pointer value, and then the next one should be the next GUID, which it is B1A08C00. There it is. Okay. So therefore, those pointers and those GUIDs are untouchables and can't be modified. You can't make a copy of these things, and you can't pass copies of them to other functions or whatever. You can only use references. You can also use these identifier numbers, because these are fixed, even though this is an enum, so you can't modify these. These are literal constants, and these literal constants, each one of them identifies one of these unmodifiable structs. And so this is in a similar sense to the old pre-Windows 7 days when we used those CSIEL or whatever strings, constants. These are like those. Sorry, not this one. Shell folders. At first I was using these identifiers, right? Well, now I've got another list, a whole new list of identifiers that covers everything, and it's just a list of numbers starting at 1 and going up to the maximum. This happens to be the last one. It turns out that there are, of the known folder IDs, strangely enough, and these are actually called well-known folders. 4 or 5 of them didn't exist. They weren't in this list. And I thought either it's something wrong with this header or my system or whatever, but I checked online, and it's not only true for me, but it's true on all systems. So I simply added them to the list. One of them is, I think crypto keys was one, and another one was, what were they? I can tell by the history, I suppose. Credential manager, crypto keys, system certificates, and user pin are not known folders. Well, they are now, and they have their identifiers. And so that's that. So that means that now I can just go back to the old ones, the old way of obtaining these folders, which is by passing in an integer identifier. Well, not here. This is, I call this shell obj6, so this is like extensions to shell obj that start at version 6. Forget about these flags for a minute. hresult get known folder path, which takes a reference to a known folder ID, some flags, this is some kind of process token, and a thing that you got a free, which I in turn change that to a simplified version called sh get known folder path, which takes one of these indices and returns to you a path if it exists, or blank. First I get the known folder, its ref ID, and this function is actually right in line above here. It calls the other function, and if not filled, assign that to a string, free the memory, and I always have paths terminated with slashes. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but all my other functions have slash terminated things that are paths that identify a directory are slash terminated. So same here. So that completely does everything to do with the shell folder, and that's useful, and it came in useful in the last little program. What's the other little thing? There's a bunch of little things. I'll have to do more than one of these. Let me just see my time. Okay, time for one more. Oh yeah, okay, so now this list control, that's the thing. The control that I invented for doing this kind of report style stuff is based on as I said, a class called C list control, a much diminished function set. In fact, it only has a few functions that I use. I'm not going to add functions for things that I don't intend to use. Now these the function names I took from MFC if they had one. I'll show you the MFC version. There's C list control and C list view. List view, I think, is the one. The C list control is just a C list view. And I don't really know what the difference is. Maybe one is specific for dialogues or something. I'm pretty sure I definitely copied that from C list view because of these letters here. LV for list view. Yeah. I don't think this is the one I want to look at. Control view. Whenever you see this AFX inline, you probably hit the right spot. C list, okay, there's hardly anything. So it's list control. That's the place to look. No, this may be correct. It looks like the right spot. How come that's not inline? I see. Some of them are inline and some are not. So here are their implementations, and for some of the functions anyway, not two of them. List control, and the declaration, go ahead and see list control, and close here. I'm pretty sure I must have copied this file. Okay, now this already is a fairly small class, except for all this stuff at the end. And I copied that and removed all the things I don't want, and I'm left with this. And I just added a few things. Actually, no, I didn't add it here. I added it. There's a helper class that goes with this for images, for those icons. And I was just working with that. Now, I don't know what most of this stuff does. And some of them are not implemented. You'll notice the implementations are simply a matter of either a send message in these cases, or for list control. It's all send messages. So I didn't copy these ones. In fact, the ones I copied were the ones that must be up here. Some send messages, but mostly, where is it? There's a bunch of macros. They all start with list view underscore, like this. Not like that. Long file. I'll find it. Here they are. List control. Okay. It's in one of these INL files. Now these here are macros, as I just said. And I was already working with these macros, but I didn't like the fact of these being macros, so I made macros to turn these macros into functions, believe it or not. So I have a macro that turns a macro into a function. Several of them, in fact. Macro to function. See? It'll take this name and convert the macro version into a function version like this. You see? I'm going to need one for the different numbers of arguments. But it's better to have functions because you get the benefit of the type checking and so on. But now to further compound that, I've taken these functions and called those functions from a new set of functions in my own class. So really this step is, the first step was unnecessary, but I had done that before making this class, so I kept it. Now what do I use in this class? Insert items, delete items, and delete all the items. You can find items. What's an item? An item is something that appears. Well, I'm not actually 100% sure. It might be this entire line, or it might just be anything in each one is like a square. It might be one of these things. I'm not 100% sure. Because I don't use that add item thing to add stuff to the other column. I use another function called add string to column or something. Add them all in. Right there. Should be in here. Yeah. Okay, here's where I set up the columns. Okay. I just made these functions quickly. It just wrappers around this. So to add a column, you call a function called insert column. Okay. And to add an item, the first item, the one with the icon, I've got all spelled out here. It's going to be column 0, turns out. But column, do I specify column? No. Row. No. This must be correct because I'm always using 0 here, right? So now that's an item. And each item can also have a user data part. This particular one has an image and text and a parameter. Now I've set the whole thing to 0, so there might be something new with column, I doubt it. Columns, I see. Now I've said that's automatically been set to 0. So maybe if this number were bigger than 0, then all of the other things in the same column would become part of this item. Maybe. But there's also something called sub-item. And I used that before to add something at a different column. Here I have a function set item text, which calls the list views item sub-item. I see. So sub-item, all those things therefore are part of the same item. They're just sub-items of item. Okay. Alright, so you can see that all that work wasn't for naught. It's just pretty easy to use. And building the columns as I'm creating this list thing. I'll just change. I start here. I fill in this one with the icon, and then next column. That's one way to do it. I suppose you could also build by columns, and then you have to run over the item. That's okay. So every time increment the column, and then really I should eliminate this thing somewhere else. But I've got to make sure to increment the column every time I do something. So I end up in the wrong column. Now these info things are the things that I found from the UserAssist. And all of these things are just text. I don't think it has to be text. There's set item text, and there's state, and then there's just set item, which is like the one that I did for the first one. And I think an item can be there can be many kinds of different items. State math, state image. What is the item have? Like I think an item could be a number, say. Okay, tile view, image, text, state. Maybe it's just text, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of things you can do in this list view, though, like for sorting. I'm sure there's an interface for sorting, right? If you click on a column header, it should be able to sort the items when you do that. And I don't know how that works, but I'm sure it can't be that hard. It must be a standard way. Okay, so that's one thing, and as far as this code goes, there's really nothing to it. I mean, the functions are already been written, and these are just wrappers, right? Get item data, pass an integer, and this thing returns a d-word ptr L param. Okay, so that's the user data part that I've added, and to me that's that user assist struct. So if I call get item data with a given item number, that gives me the user data. Then there's image list I get to next time. Now I don't know about the selection mark, but it turns out that it appears that that is just like select row, you know, select an item, set text, set state, set item without the big structure. If you want to do it, passing everything in one argument at a time. Hit test, no idea, but I assume it has to do with the mouse. Insert item, insert column, we'll use another insert column. This is the one I'm using. Heading format. See, there are various formats. Width and sub item is the sub item corresponding with that column. So really, this is quite easy. Icon spacing. Okay, fine. Item count. No, I never used it. Oh, get. Oh, I see. It retrieves the previous. No, what am I returning here? Boolean. Oh, if it. I don't know what this returns value. Set item count, count, flag. Oh, I guess this just returns true if the item count became this value. That makes sense. Get a rect. One thing I want to know how to do is how to make it have lines. I'm sure that's just one of those styles. Because as it is, it's hard to tell what goes with what. Also, I'll add to this class a save and restore the position and, well, just the widths of all the columns, because you don't need to store the positions because that follows from the widths. Alright, so that's one update, and there'll be more.